lovely people. Today, Rory and I, because Rory has joined us, not you can kind of see him, but he is just off camera. He is just down here. This feels closer than normal. Oh, whatevs. I know the table's wonky. There we go, that's a bit better. Anyway, Rory and I are glad to welcome you to the weekend. Yesterday, as you know, I was not streaming because it was Trev's birthday, and I went to see Trevi, and we had a good laugh with Trev. He's feeling a bit under the weather. He is somewhat racked by his consciousness because for ages and ages, Trev said, "Oh, I can run your mail server, I can run your mail server," so I let him. 30 years worth of email, and his Exchange server died, and it's eaten it. Now, he had backup, but it turns out that the backup was taken while it was corrupt, so although it was still running, it was corrupt. And when you restore it, the first thing it does is, of course, check it, and it's corrupt, so it deletes it. So it's gone. And he is very upset by that. And I do understand, because in years gone by, I'd have rather removed a kidney with a teaspoon than my own kidney with a teaspoon, that is, than lose my mailbox. What are you doing, Amy? Because it meant a lot to me. For some reason, here and now, do I want it back? Yeah, I would rather have had it back. I really would. But at the same time, it's just a bit annoying. Mainly for the companies who you buy some shit off their website, and then should you want support, they want the order number, but they didn't give you a login to the website to get it from, so you have to have the email of when you ordered it. And one of the few pieces of software that I actively use that applies to, I was really fortunate, in my phone still had a copy of that email, and I got to take some photos of it so that I have that information to hand. But other than that, most of it's full of shit. It really is. And a result of being full of shit, did I ever really actively go read them? No, not that often. I mean, there were a few times you might go back a year. You know, that thing last year to see how much it cost last year or whatever. But other than that, I don't desperately read old emails, so it's not going to change my life drastically, so I'm not that worried. And I know he is really upset at having lost it. But, well, between us, we had quite a lot of gigs worth of mailbox, because, well, we both got 30 plus years worth of emails in it. And he had a backup of it, but the moment he goes to restore it, it eats it. He can't change that. And I understand that. And part of it is because of the server he's got, which doesn't allow him startup options. So, for example, I'm used to using VMware, and under VMware you can mount the disk on another machine, or you could start in safe mode and move the files out and then start it up proper, so when it starts up it goes, I find no shit, and then you can look at the files and see if you can do something with it. But in true Microsoft format, it deletes stuff. And we were talking about Microsoft shit, and I made a flippant comment about something, and he was like, mine doesn't do that. And we had a bit of a, well, show me, and his machine is definitely different to mine. And this morning, I was looking at my Microsoft account, because I was going to send him some photos of some things to prove that, you know, it's different on my machine. And it says, last night, 9:30, I was around at Trev's. You try. If someone tried to log in from Brazil as your account and failed, fine, whatever. Don't really care. 11 something, someone in Brazil successfully logged into your account. But it didn't trigger my 2FA, so I didn't get an email, nor did I get a text message. But it says they successfully logged in. So someone, arguably, according to their logs, has logged in as me in Brazil. But according to Microsoft, my account is not compromised. But if someone has logged in from Brazil, and it was not me, because I'm not capable of being in 2 places at once, surely it has. Just because your front door is open and nothing's missing doesn't mean that no one was home. No one has been sniffing around the house. Because, of course, their answer is, well, you can still log into it. Now, that just means they didn't change anything. Doesn't mean they haven't logged into it and done stuff, especially when they can't tell me what they did. They don't keep those records. Well, if you don't keep the records, you can't assure me, because they're 100% confident my account is not compromised, but their logs say someone logged in as me in Brazil. Well, I don't feel the two could be necessarily true, because if they logged in as me, now admittedly there's nothing that hugely exciting in my account, but they could, upgrade my Office account or something, whatevs. But, well, so realistically, I think it gives them my PayPal, email, and obviously it's linked to PayPal, so any payments go through automatically because it's from Microsoft, and it gives them my address and phone number, so they've got access to information, even if they can't do a huge amount with it. But they're saying it's not compromised. Well, apart from Brazil, on an Android device which I do not own, it's not compromised. So yeah, I'm feeling a bit salty about that this morning, and so hence I'm a bit late, because I was chatting with Northcott, being salty about Microsoft, frankly. So I'm not going to pretend that I'm a good girl today, because, well, clearly I'm not, because I'm pissed at Microsoft today. But it just seems a bit weird that they can say that they're 100% confident my account's not compromised, but at the same time can't tell me what they did, and can't answer why then someone can log in from Brazil as me, and it says they've logged in as, from Brazil as me, but they're saying it's not compromised. How can you assure me of that if you don't know what they did? I mean, it's a bit like they broke in your house and you haven't spotted anything missing yet. Well, really? Do you have an absolute, inventory of, what if they came and took 1 teaspoon? Stole a dog hair off the carpet. I mean, yes, it's trivial and it doesn't really matter, but you can't prove to me that that didn't happen, because you've got no records of it. You can't. Yeah, I don't know. Does make me just kind of like confused me as to, and he was kind of like, but I assure you, your account's not compromised. Well, can't we escalate it? No, I can only escalate if it's compromised, but it must be compromised. Someone from Brazil says, your system says someone in another country who distinctly cannot have been me has logged in as me. Well, it's not compromised. Yeah, but you can't tell me how you're so confident of that. And in the end, you just terminated the conversation. He gave up. He didn't want to answer. He couldn't answer the question, or he didn't want to answer because nothing's changed. I can't do anything about it. And I'm pretty sure under GDPR he has no right to. They have to keep access as to what they do on the grounds of, in case it wasn't me and they've accessed my personal information. So I'm pretty sure somewhere they do have that information. You may not, my son may not have had it, and I can respect that. You're the first line dweeb following a script, because you were very clearly following a script. You got very put out when I stopped you following your script. But at the same time, you can't tell me with 100% confidence, like you said you had, that my account is not compromised, because you can't tell me what they did or didn't do. And you can't tell me why it says that I logged in from Brazil when I had, realistically, the only machine that can log into it is this one, and it didn't leave the house. So, and I've got a fixed IP, so it's not, you know. Amy, will you quit whining, you annoying bag of shit? My neighbour's having a new kitchen fitted, and it's driving her and me, as a result, up the wall, because she's got to whine about it, and she's got to tell me all about it, and yet I fucking know. I know. I told them that there were people coming and everything. I know that they're... It's just like I told my neighbours they can park in my driveway. So yes, there is an additional car in the driveway. And it's not me. Oh my goodness. Should have had Amy on my security. Jesus Christ, no, they'd have logged in and gone, and fucking logged out again. Amy! Annoying bag of fur. You truly, truly are. Settle down. Trample the grass on the cushion and just go to sleep. Come on, Rory, you can lie down. There's a jumper there, you can use that as a cushion. You like jumpers as cushions. Ow! You're in a wretched paws, woman. Wretched animals being mugged. I'm being mugged by a little brown dog. Yes. Nearly took you with me last night. Yes. But then there would have been a kerfuffle because cat number 1 was there. They don't have names because they're not his cat. But he's got about 12 cats that come visit him for treats, and one of them is allowed liberties and the rest are not. And cat number 1 was having her liberties, i.e. she goes upstairs for a snooze and comes in and sits on his lap and stuff. And because I'm less familiar, she was a lot more uncomfortable with my presence. She doesn't hate me, but she doesn't like me either. There's distinctly a layer of difference with her, which is fine. I respect that I am not the human she's used to. And Trev, like me, doesn't exactly have hordes of people around, so it's not like she's used to there being other people. Rough nail. It's funny how sometimes something as simple as a slightly rough nail can really make something feel weird. I broke one earlier, which doesn't help, because then I start picking at the others. Most of my nails split from one side and then I pick them and rip them off. I don't actually bite my nails, unlike lots of people. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong. I mean, I won't say there's nothing wrong with biting your nails, of course there is, but at the same time, on a grand scale of things, they're far worse than life than you could be doing. But there are definitely worse habits you could have. Um, but I don't bite my nails. I pick mine. And my mother was forever having a go at me about biting my nails, and being the blessed child that I was always proudly telling her I don't bite my nails. I have never bitten my nails. The only time I do see, closest I get to biting them, is when they've ripped off and left like a little chunk on the end, and I can't pick at it with the other hand. I might use my teeth to pick at the other little bit because it's catching on things. But other than that, I don't bite nails. Never have. My mother tried anti-nail biting polish on me as a kid. All it did was make crisps taste horrible. Because I wasn't biting my nails. I don't know when my computer goes ping. I don't know what it is. Yes, I do apologise for being slightly late. Well, quite a bit late actually, but on the good news, I have been a good girl, and I have pricked the first strip of strip number 2. Not that it looks hugely excitingly different, you understand, but here is strip number 2, and I put the inch numbers down the side. You can tell it's strip number 2 because it starts with a small one. And I have pricked all the holes in that, and I've started on strip number 2, part number 2, to try and get ahead of the game. But the willpower to do it is small. I need to point that out, for it is one of the most boring things to do. It is the kind of thing to do while watching a really dull film, of which there are many of those around, and Trevor and I both have a pastime of watching terrible movies, but there are movies that are even too terrible for us. Two of which are called A Quiet Place and A Quiet Place 2. I'm sorry if you enjoy those movies. I cannot see how any human being enjoys those movies. There's just so much wrong with them. that. We'll get here. Can't believe the end, didn't I? I mean, the last thing is that. That's a good thing. Yawny. Shouldn't smack the microphone. Stop licking the couch. Do not need. What part of not licking of the couch? Do not need wet patches on the couch. Is it really Friday? Let's concentrate on the level for a change. So, go your way then. A rough bit on here somewhere. I'm not sure where. I hate it when things seem to catch on you now and yet you can't find a rough bit. Leave that there up a little bit because I keep banging down it. So 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, that's good. So let's work you down. Solidifies the spider in a bit. Definitely something wrong with my thumb there. You may recall the game I've been playing. I played a couple of weeks ago on stream called Mega Bonk. It's kind of popular at the moment. It's really cheap, it's really stupid, but it is kind of addictive. I feel at home in it, and I feel this need to do something about it, and I don't know quite what to do. When I say do something about it, I mean make one. Something similar. for those who are north of England at the moment, it is the customary cool and wet season at the moment. Kind of been drizzling with rain for about 12 hours now. But it's not raining, but it's not exactly dry either. It's just wet. That's not wet enough. Adds in a couple of minutes. About a minute actually. But anyway. Let's do this before I forget. So at least switch this off. There we go. That side ready. Open it up. Apparently, if you share a clip of my stream and it goes viral, you can get up to 3 badges. Well, no one's going to go viral on my shit, so don't bother. Felt it's there. Tiny, indescribably small marginal imperfection. Jesus Christ. This is dogs won't go out to pee in the garden weather, unfortunately. Because it's weathery outside. Let's come from this side then. Why are you must have 8? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And there's something drastic to be done. Oh, this might have 8 on it. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It does. Amy! Little one! I am aware that there are people in the road minding their own business. They are minding their own business. They are not coming here and they are not stealing our bones or our lives. So I'm just looking at the camera, pulling up the camera to check what's going on. It's being really slow. Else seems to be nothing, so she's just being a whiny cow. It's fine, we know she can do the whiny cow thing, so. Well, it's not fine because we don't like her doing the whiny cow thing, but we know she is a whiny cow thing. So, there are no mad axe wielding murderers kind of imminently coming through the door. No one's going to steal the dog food or whatever, so. Stop grinding your teeth. She has they both actually have quite a terrible habit of grinding their teeth. It's a good girl. She came up and just lay down. It's a very good girl. Yes, you are. It's a very good girl. Good girl. I know you make you lick your nose. Hey. Be good girl. So, you need more hugs than that. Okay. You can have more hugs from that because you got up and was quite quickly lying down, but now you're standing up. You're getting in the way. Yes. Lie down. That's a good girl. Yes, you are. I don't want to be licked. No. I don't. I am not food. Don't taste nice. No, don't. Probably don't taste of anything, to be honest. Should have seen the look on her face. I bought months ago. They have a habit of attacking the post box when the post comes through, and I bought some puppy antibiotic stuff. So I sprayed the letterbox with the antibiotic stuff, and fairly quickly, along came the postman and posted some letters to the letterbox, and they attacked the post box. And well, needless to say, it kind of didn't go to plan, because she, well, for her anyway, so she bit the letterbox, and of course it tastes absolutely vile and generally it makes them kind of foam at the mouth a bit because they overproduce saliva and they don't really know what to do with it. And it was the door! It was the door in here in the wind, you fucking... And so she's foaming at the mouth almost because of the foulness that she's taken a great gob full of the stuff. And the look of betrayal of the fact that this letterbox has let her down was kind of amusing, actually. Just shush, little one. Just shush. Oh, you are. Still haven't booked that optician's appointment. Meant to do that today. But it's one of those things that enters my mind like now. And then, despite the fact that I still can't see through my glasses, stream will end, I'll have forgotten all about it. And then, next stream, I really must book that optician's appointment. you do. I'll let you do now. I'm in a really weird mood. I want to do this, but I don't want to do this. Doesn't help that I'm hungry. I've got a stupid app on my phone, and when I do certain things, I need to click things. And if I don't click them, it gets pissy at me. Which is a good thing, because it's kind of not a get organised thing, but it encourages you to do things for in-game rewards kind of stuff. And if it helps me, it helps me. I frankly don't care. At the moment, it's kind of not helping, because I can see how to work it. I can see how to make it look like I'm doing everything, even if I'm not. So, you know, have you done this? Yes. Did I? Maybe not. I still clicked that I did it. Oh dear, did something go on my fly swatter? Oh, what a shame. One less fly in the world. I'm heartbroken. Yeah, my fly sorter's not working so well at the moment because the light's gone on it. So it doesn't attract them as much, especially in the dark. It isn't dead yet. Yep, it is now. Doesn't feel right. Oh, no, that's right. It's weird. I think by the end of this month it'll be dark about now. robot, which means my thing is not working properly. I'll have to restart that. I'll spam bot. Spam, 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 spam. Yes, I'm me. Vlog. Spam. Deny. I wonder why the speaker bot isn't working. It says it's connected, but it's not. So let's close it and restart it. Stream someone. Speaker bot. Okay. Yes, I heard the car outside. It's really not that exciting. The question is still unconnected? It said yes. It's fine. Oh. Ping. Right, we Twitch saying we have actioned your report. Or we have acknowledged your report. One or the other. Each thing it goes. Oh, and we have actioned your report. So Spambot is already dead. Really took that little time. Oh. It's just a car. Dear Lord, animals. It's really not that exciting. I assume it's the kitchen and putting something in their van. It's really not that big a deal. Unless they're banging on the trying to break in the house. Actually don't care. Really don't. I need to practice sitting without putting my feet so far under me that I'm cutting the blood off them when I'm sitting at this. Because I'm fine at the computer, I don't do it then. But for some reason I feel more like I'm falling over or something doing it. And so I wedge my feet to stop me. But I wedge them under me, which also makes no sense because surely that's pushing me further forward. Just realised something. I forgot to move my roll up. So the previous bit of lace is somewhat further down than it should be. A hole around here somewhere. Motif to go. And then it'll be plain sailing to the end. For someone who only drank a slurp of water, you don't have to make a lot of noise, dog. Yeah, there's no me under that bit of blanket, so there's no point trying to stand on that. No. No. Because I haven't got my legs wedged up. That's the difference. Yeah. So. Brain's just had a thought. Let's see. No. right, my brain was going, I really would want to watch Rent a Ghost. But it doesn't seem to be streaming anywhere. I'm buggered if I'm paying money for it. Oh, wait for it. Trying to work my legs out. It doesn't feel right. I just can't bring myself to do it. And then the blood will cease to my feet again. Quit whining. I think I clean feet off. I don't know if it comes over well on my that's right at the wrong foot. Because when he grumbles, it's kind of a low grumble. And it sounds like a mutter damn tut kind of thing, right? When she does it, it's a bit like a crying baby, and it's just that goes straight through your head and you can't ignore it, and it's just all the wrong pictures for me. Those are the inches of this particular strip. So as you can see in the top right hand corner, there are going to be 7 strips. This strip will be 39 inches long, and there'll be 7 of them, so there'll be 273 inches. If I flip this up slightly, there's the end of the pattern. Once this is finished, we will do strip number 2, which is there's big motif, small motif. One's marginally bigger, it's not actually that much bigger, but it's bigger and smaller. And this one goes big, small, all the way down to big, and the other one goes small, big, and then we'll end in a small. So they alternate. And so there are going to be 7 of them. It's going to be interesting along the way. So I could make one long strip, chop it up and call it quits. No. So this one starts and ends in a big motif. The next one, it starts and ends in a smaller one. So that's the small. That's the smaller one. This is the bigger one. So the other one will start and end in a smaller one and have the big ones in between. So it's basically the same shit, but not quite the same shit. If that makes sense. So it'll feel the same generally while I make it, but technically it's not. Hang on, where did I put my magic thing? I have a thing. So, this was our experimental phase, and it's on a dark cloth so you can see it. In my experimental phase, we made shorter strips because life is short, and we practiced joins. And the first join looked really good until I washed it, although it still doesn't look too bad. It looks deliberate, it would have passed, but we improved on the joins. Let me shunt it over a bit. And we tried varying motifs, and I got the internet to pick motifs, and annoyingly they picked for 1 and 2. So I am making a neck curtain. It needs this many strips, but we're making on 1 wider so it's symmetrical. So this covers the glass. Adding 1 will cover more of the wooden frame, which is fine. And it is this long so that it covers the window. It is a single window, and daft as it sounds, I'm not a lace person. I don't need lace in my life. I don't want lace doilies, tablecloths. I certainly don't have it on my clothes. I don't even have patterns on my clothes, let alone lace. So making lace is a really dumb hobby for me. And the only thing I could think of that I would use was a neck curtain, because, well, you could make bookmarks, and I've made some pretty bookmarks, but I read my books on a Kindle. Don't need bookmarks on a Kindle. So it is one of those kind of problems, was that my want to make lace is far bigger than my need for it, and so I decided that I would make a neck curtain. And originally, hang on, it was gonna look like that. It was going to be made of a large number. It was going to be made of 18 of those, so it was going to be 3 across, 6 down, and we got halfway. We made 9 of them. But for some reason, I couldn't take it anymore. The joins of these were preying on my mind. Well, technically, I did make some lace when I was about 10 years old. Maybe slightly older. It's a bit vague. I then didn't make any until last year, when my brain woke up one morning with this great, fantastic idea in its head of I need to make some lace. I've always been a tomboy. I don't have need for lace. I'm not pink and frilly. I don't do pink. I don't do frilly. I don't do lace. I don't do a lot of things. And so it's really a bit of a stupid hobby. But net curtains, not that I desperately need net curtains, but a net curtain is a big project that I could really get into and hopefully get sick of making lace doing, and then I'll hopefully be over it. Now, the curtain aspect has been on my mind for a while. As a child, I learnt to knit, and well, frankly, I fucking hated knitting. I hated knitting with every inch of my soul. And to be honest, my mother tried to make me knit some jumpers as a child because, you know, I'd use them. And, well, I was growing out of them before I got anywhere near finishing them. As a lot of children, I made a real mountain out of it. And I bent all my knitting needles, and you know, after about 6 months, I'd have made like 4 inches of the back, and that would have been it. Yeah, of course you can. Lace making is technically not that hard. It's made of 2 moves. It's even less than knitting. Because knitting, you've got various ways to poke things. No, this is either left over right or right over left. That's it. That's all the choices you get. Now, it is one of those weird things is that... So, quite a few years ago, around about 2005, I bust my knee. Slipped in cold dog wee, bust my knee. A couple of years later, bust the other knee. Now I was doing karate at the time, and it kind of put the end of my karate doing. My knees just hurt too much to do it now. But only when really doing karate. They're not so bad otherwise, but doing karate and the stupid stances that we do and putting pressure on your knees was just not helpful. I certainly can't do 5 hours of putting pressure on my knees without screaming at people. So, kind of out the thing. But it's harder to do that than you think, right? And I'll explain. But while I had bust knees, I got insomnia because my knees hurt and I couldn't find a comfortable way to sleep. So I started watching YouTube videos because, well, you know, there's a heck of a lot of crap on YouTube. And YouTube being good at YouTube, you start off watching, I don't know, how to program the thermostat for your heating. 2 minutes later, you're either watching someone pop a pustule that holds about 20 gallons of pus, open surgery, or in my case, on this day, double knitting. Now, being knitting, but I watched it anyway, and it was like, so you get 2 good sides. I see a point in that. I kind of fancy a go at that. And I'd taken up crochet a couple of years earlier, because my brain had woken up one day going, I need to crochet, having never crocheted or seen anyone crochet. And it kind of went, I need to crochet, so I bought it some sticks and some string, and it was happy. So I bought some different sticks and used the string that I had. I call it all string because it's just simpler. And, well, I had a go. And, well, it kind of worked out all right. And I was kind of cool with it. So I made a king-size bedspread in double knitting, as you do. And a couple of other things like a scarf and some stuff. And knitting became acceptable. I'm not going to say I enjoyed it, but it became acceptable. Then I learned to do continental knitting, not throw knitting, i.e. pick knitting. Oh my good God, if I'd learned that as a child, maybe I'd have liked knitting. And I would now go as far as to say I reasonably enjoy knitting. I would choose to knit because I do it a different way. Well, it is for a lot of people because most people who come here are not lace makers, so you're amongst friends, right? And so I found a lady called Lucy Neatby, and Lucy Neatby basically had a course on how to do double knitting, and I had this burning want. Using thread, almost as fine as I'm using here for my lace making. My brain wanted to make a double knitted curtain for my bedroom, which is 3 panels. And so I looked at the 1mm sticks and you know, sufficiently thin, because obviously the more stitches you have, the better the picture, right? And I wanted to do almost like that willow tree blue and white China pattern, but my take on it. Not that I can draw, you understand, but I'd manage to make a drawing or something and put that as my picture, and have the black side on the inside and the white side on the outside, so the white reflected the sunshine so it didn't get too hot, and the black meant my room would be dark. And of course double-sided meant that most light would not make it through. And I really wanted to do that, but the fact that it would be around about 1500 stitches a row. Now if you think of a window, say, imagine this is a whole window, but obviously it's a lot longer. The length is, when you've got 3 of them, is shorter than the width. So working side to side, as I would have to, because, well, that makes logical sense, it would be about 1500 stitches. It would probably take about 3 hours to do 1 row. Because, of course, that's 1500 stitches per side, not in total, per side. So that'd be 3000 stitches for 1 row. And chances are I'd get to maybe do 1 row at best a day. The journey seemed too steep and too long, because I'd probably fuck it up, right? And as we all know, and that was my greatest fear, is that, and to be honest, that's part of the reason I am not doing a lace project of a window in one piece. I have bobbin phobia. The idea of having like 80 gazillion bobbins and keeping control of them and not having them in the way, and would put the fear of God up me, frankly. This is plenty. This is 84. But even if I did a square inch, it just doesn't show. And you get demotivated. It's like trying to lose weight. You know, the first, if you drastically change your diet and you know, do loads of exercise out of the blue, for the first few weeks, there's progress, and then it plateaus. And the moment it plateaus, you're fed up with it now. And if the plateau goes on for more than a week, you're not interested. You've given up. You're in a mood with it now. And I didn't want to do that. I did not want to I wanted to finish this. So, as I said, I made 9 of the little squares. Here they are. So I have 9 squares in a tin. And I could sew them all together and make half a curtain. But my concern was, as a net curtain, the joins would be rather harsh. I mean, even if you did them in white and you had, you know, because it's white, I know they don't look overly white, but they're white. If I did them in white and I sewed it up and I made a really neat job of it, there would be really harsh lines. It's like joining granny squares if you do crochet. You can't hide the fact that they're joined together. And the more I did, the more it played on my mind. So around about square 2, it dawned on me that the join might be a bit more than I'd considered. Because I'd never joined them together. I'd made them, but I hadn't joined them together. Well, after like square number 4, I knew I was not going to appreciate the thing at the end of it. Now, I don't hate the squares. But one of the mysterious aspects of this, and this does not make any sense. So when you make a square, you have a square in front of you and you work on a diagonal because of the 45-degree angle that this tends to generate. So you start at the top and you work down, you get to the widest point, and then it gets thinner again because you make that triangle. You then turn it, and now you're at the top, you work down, get to this bottom chord, turn it. And I've got a pillow that makes turning it real easy. That's not a problem. It would take about a month to make a square. And we did. For 9-10 months, we made squares. But during the last couple of squares, we diverted. And we made this. Now this didn't take half as long as you might think. Because, to be fair, these two strips here are basically the same number of bobbins that there is in a square. Because it's the same bobbins but instead of making triangles, I've made two strips and sewed them together. Now these slightly overlapped, so technically it's a bit smaller, but this is about the same size as a square. This did not take a month. These two strips did not take a month. Hell, these two strips did not take a month. And these are longer. So bear in mind, I'm a child of the 70s because I'm an old fart. I do inches and centimetres interchangeably, but some things I don't think of 6 inches, I think 15 centimetres, but other things are inches, right? So I'm a really confused individual. The squares were roughly 15 centimetres square. I am excessively close to inch 36. But this is like 3 inches wide. But it's only taken like 6.5 weeks. I should only be at inch 30. Well, actually inch 12, frankly. No, it would be 24. So I'm half a square ahead of myself in almost the same amount of time. Strips take less time, and I don't get it. Because turning the square did not take time. Really didn't. You got to the bottom, turn. It literally was... Well, it's not like that takes a week, is it? It's not like that takes a couple of weeks. It really doesn't. But for some reason, this goes a lot faster. Now, as you can tell by these, the joins are not perfect. I'm going to agree that the joins are not perfect. So this one... yes, we do. We are the most confused people in the world because we buy petrol at price... Well, we put gallons of petrol in our car and drive miles, but we buy it in litres. We buy our beer in pints. We want pints of milk, but they charge us... They have to write litres on it. So, for the most part, technically, we should be using centimetres. But we don't. We don't always. We still occasionally use feet because we measure ourselves in feet and inches. We measure ourselves in stones and pounds, not kilograms. But we buy all of our food in kilograms. We are a screwed up nation by the fact that we didn't commit to one method of measurement. And we kind of did a bit of both. So at school, they kind of announced one day, after years of teaching things with inches and ounces and all the rest of it, we're going metric. Okay. And we learnt about centimetres and grams and shit. Well... I don't know. There is a bit of me. Now, the only thing that I don't mind whether it's feet, inches, centimetres, metres, I really don't care. I will handle either way. I'm kind of on the fence. I don't see better in either. They're just measurement units. When it comes to the temperature of the day, centigrade makes a lot more sense. To me. So while I have understanding of Fahrenheit, I have never really actively used Fahrenheit because they kind of stopped using it as a tomorrow's weather will be in Fahrenheit when I was quite small. And well, even when and even if they did, I didn't fucking care. I was a kid, right? Um, Centigrade, because freezing is 0 and boiling is 100, and my house at about 21 degrees is ace. If it's less than 18, I'm too cold. If it's more than about 24, I'm too hot. I find that really easy. And you get people going, oh, it's 90. And I'm going, what the fuck's that in English? I don't translate Fahrenheit as well because we don't multi-use those. Nothing in the UK is measured in Fahrenheit. It's always centigrade. Our ovens, our weather, everything is centigrade. So I get that. I only really understand centigrade. So we'll keep that. If we can keep that bit, but I don't care if we use inches or centimetres. So if everyone wanted to go back to inches, I'm cool, you know? Fair enough. Good for you. It is one of those weird things, but I do find it hard when, because as a crafter I buy all random shit. So you buy wool in grams, primarily. Comes in grams, 100 grams, 250 grams. But everyone talks of wraps per inch. Very few people do wraps per centimetre. Well, it's not really a big enough test area for starters. Oh dear, wine. Are you feeling left out, little one? I have 2 dogs, by the way. Are you feeling left out, little one? Wine. Oh. Anyway, so... Oh, dog. Just lie down. There you go. But some measurements I don't really care either way, but when you're thinking of things per inch, 9 times out of 10, because it's a decent chunk of space, you can... I mean, if you think of this, if you wanted to count, I mean, these are not exactly 1 inch, but they're close, right? I did line it up with the nearest pinhole because I was lazy, right? So some of the inches are slightly bigger than an inch, and some are marginally smaller than an inch. But if you look at this, well, if I think of that, it goes 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. So it's 14 rows to the inch. But if I wanted to do centimetres, it's going to be, well, it's 2.5, so it's going to be... It's a stupid number. Half the time it's a bit of a number, and that makes it harder because it's a small number. So, hence... When you're doing something like that, everyone prefers to work in whole numbers, right? So if it was 3 rows an inch, okay. Or sorry, if it was 3 rows a centimetre, yeah, okay. But when it's 2.93, fuck off. But if it was, say, 6 an inch, well, that we can get behind that, or 8 an inch or whatever. You can get behind that because it's a whole number. And so I am slightly multilingual because my parents are only ever inches and ounces and shit. Where I work, I do computing, so I don't measure shit. It's fine. And we measure how hot our servers are in centigrade, so whatevs. Servers are a standard size, so I don't even have to measure how big they are. I don't care. There's so many U's high, which are the little bibbles on the front. That's all I care about. And U's are not a public kind of description. So it's I kind of... So, for example, I can tell you the glass... Here's how screwed up my head is. I can tell you that the glass on my window is 18 inches wide and 97 centimetres tall. and that's the only numbers that are stuck in my head. So I'm really screwed up. But this is how we live in England. But again, as I say, we buy our fuel in litres, but we care about how many miles to the gallon we get. Yeah, so if you look at this one, on this one, what I do is, so on this side of my lace, if you, I mean, let me just zoom in, it'll make a bit more sense. Hang on, right, angle up a bit. You can't really see, but because my finger, it will focus on my finger. The thread kind of goes down in bumps. On this side, let me move over a bit. It's a straight line. This is because this is going to be an edge, right? The reason it's bumps is because the bumps get sewn together. Now, on this first edge, I overlaid the bumps and then sewed in kind of an S shape down the edge to sew them together. And it doesn't look so bad. I mean, if I had to live with that, if that was the only join available, I actually don't mind that, because closer up, hang on, bring it up to the camera, you can actually see there are holes in the gap. So if I really, really wanted, I could, I don't know, poke a knitting needle through all the holes and make them a bit bigger. But it is emboldened by the fact that there are 2 threads through this loop, 2 threads through the other loop, and then I've laid them on top and put a 5th one round them in a kind of an S shape. So they become fatter. This one here, which has kind of the straight line in it, it's not technically a straight line, but it looks like a straight line. Again, if I hold this one up, you'll see what I mean. So if I hold this up, you can see that it looks like a straight line. But if you look really carefully, it's more of a running stitch looking line. There are little tiny gaps between it. This is because I joined 2 together, but what I did was I sewed up this one, went over, and then went back down, so it pulls on it, and it pulled, because there are 2 threads on each side, I went down through the middle of the thread, so it pulls it, and hence it makes the flatter edge to it. So this was getting there, because it's not got the bold effect, but obviously it looks all right, but one side is bigger. Actually, the line shows less, but the fact that one side is bigger showed. So on this one, I joined the two together like this, sewed up this way, and then sewed back down the other way. And this is what we did for the last 2 as practice, because, well, I want to get it right for the real thing, right? Can't be screwing it up, because it is not easy. This weighs nothing. This is like holding smoke. In its entirety, you almost can't feel the weight of this in your hand. Therefore, sewing 2 wisps of smoke together is a challenge, because it doesn't stay still. As you breathe, it kind of off to the edge, right? And obviously, it's not hugely delicate. I mean, watch, look, it's not delicate. I can pull on it, look, I can tug on it. It's not delicate, right? It's not like you can't tug on it, right? But the little loopy bits are evil, all right? And so it kind of does frustrate. It is frustrating to work with and to sew them together. And obviously, the final thing will be nearly, well, it's going to be over 1 metre long. Well, it's going to be nearly 1 metre long. I've slightly overdone it so that I can, the top is about 1 inch and the bottom's about 1 inch of clear, no pretty picture, so that I can roll it up a little bit. You can't see what I'm doing. It's off the bottom. So I can roll it up a little bit and sew it on and make a neat edge at the bottom. Because like these, what the plan is instead of trying to sew it all off and weave all the ends in and spending an entire lifetime doing it, I can do what I did with these, which is just cut knots and leave edges, and then roll it up a bit, and sandwich it in a kind of bias tape thing to give crisp, strong edges, so that there is no, because obviously the last thing you want is to catch it on something and have the edge rip and then it all go to Pete, because, you know, one of my biggest fear is you put it in the washing machine and it will die, right? So if you've trapped all the edges in a strong tape, it's not going to happen, right? And so that's the plan, is that I'm going to use some white ribbon. It's not going to be very thick, but I'm going to have some white ribbon across the bottom to trap in all the ends and keep it secure and all of that kind of shit. And so it will also make pinning it out square a lot easier, because as you can see from the edge of this one, because I washed the first 4 and then realised that I hadn't sewn the other 2 on yet, so I had to pin each hole for this strip out. You have no idea how many lifetimes that took me, because there's a lot of fecking holes. Well, as we've worked out, there's basically 7 pins per inch, because there's in and out and in and out, because there's 2 rows. So there's 7 per inch, and well, you know, there's a few inches. So it was a lot of holes. And so on this edge, I didn't do that, and I ended up with a kind of scalloped edge. So hence I've got a straight edge for the other one, because that makes it easier to work with. The dog's pissed because it's raining outside. It is weathering. Go out and pee. My dogs will not go outside and pee if the wind is blowing. It is not raining. It is only wind. You will not die in the wind. You will not get blown away. Well, exactly, right? The last thing you ever want to do is... you can imagine this, right? I mean, the original ones, the squares, was going to take about 18 months, right? Can you imagine? You then put it in the wash. Now, the problem with the squares, and here's another reason why squares are a bad idea, right? Grab a square. Right. So here you can see and prove, look, they're basically the same size as 2 strips, right? With a square, you have to start and finish. So there is an edge and there are these little ends, right? So not only in this, there is this kind of skank corner, as I call it, where you start and finish. And it's really hard to make that look invisible. And I failed, frankly. It's not invisible. So it would show. So in each of the squares, there would be a thing. So they'd all have to line up the right way, or, you know, not that I have OCD, but everyone has that, really, you didn't do them all the same, really, it just looks shit now kind of moment. So they would all have to point the same way. But because it's got a hard line, you then join the hard line to a hard line, so you get a really thick border. And it just, the idea of that really just, I couldn't do it. And as I say, it was going to take 18 months. And that was if I didn't get too sidetracked, because it is exceptionally repetitive. I'm not going to lie, it is exceptionally repetitive. I mean, to be honest, this is going to be exceptionally repetitive. I'm making 2 motifs and I'm making 7 strips. I'm making 4 like the one I've almost finished and 3 with the motifs in the other order. But once you've done one, it's like all the others, because, well, you know, you kind of forget where you are on the actual strip, and you get to the bottom and go, oh, there I am. You know, whether I'm doing it, whether it's an odd or an even number doesn't really come into it. And so it is going to be somewhat repetitive and slightly dull. I'm not gonna lie to you. But I started this strip middle of August. So we're on like week 7 and I've nearly finished 1 strip. Well, that means 49 weeks. Well, that's less than a year. Well, that's like 6 months less than if I did it by square. And that's, I am averaging 1 inch a day. Now, it's not a lot. I could easily average, you know, on a Friday or a Saturday, I could easily do a couple of inches if I could be bothered. Well then for each of those, well, once a week you gain 1. So Well, you know, there's so many weeks in a strip. So let's say there's 7 weeks a strip. Well, and there's going to be 7 strips. So I'm going to gain 7 days. So I'm going to gain a week. So it's not going to take 49. It's going to take 48. And I'll have to say it together. That'll take a frigging week. I can assure you that. But sewing the other ones together wouldn't take less. If anything, it's worse. Because technically, I could probably sew these, if I really chilled it out, with a sewing machine. And there's a part of you that goes, well, there's 7 strips, you're going to have 7 1 metre lengths. Yes. Well, I was going to have 3 1 metre lengths and then 5 18-inch ones. I'm not sure that's less. So, well, it's one of those things, and I think one of the things that helps me while I do it is having someone, such as yourself, to talk to. Because obviously, I'm sitting here and I wiggle my bobbins about. It's not a speed sport. Despite the videos of the grannies who go, and out comes like 6 inches of lace. These people are not normal. Most of us cannot work at that kind of speed. Mainly because the putting of the damn pins in takes a lot longer. It's the pins that kill it, you know. Hang on, let me just quickly check where I got to. So, in lace making, there are 2 moves. Cross, which is left over right, and twist, right over left. That's it. Now, you do combinations, for example. Cross, twist, cross. This is known as cloth stitch because you end up with the undery ovary thing. And because it is cross, twist, cross, and I need to do a few of them, I have a cheat. Now, if you think about it, I'm going to do cross, twist, cross. So the 2 that were there are now here, and the 2 that were here are now there. This one is now going to start the cross for the next one. And this one has just come in from that one. Well, if you combine those 2 moves, you end up with what I do, which is, and I generally work the other way, but it doesn't really matter. You start off and then you go cross, twist, and I've done 3 pairs, but instead of doing like 12 moves, I boiled it down a few because cross, twist, and instead of moving this one on its own, I moved the next 2, and the next 2, and the next 2, and the next 2 until I run out. And it's a lot quicker, and this is my only kind of speed up thing. It would be a challenge. I'm not going to pretend that it would not be a challenge. But one of the things that is quite good about lace is, unlike knitting and crochet, crochet less so, but unlike knitting where you knit it and you go, oh, well, you know, it's this. And then it kind of goes, ying. Or under its own weight, it goes, you know. Lace making doesn't tend to do that. I mean, it does kind of shrivel up a bit if you wash it. But you wash it when you're finished, and then it doesn't really matter. So it is very much the when you take it off, it is the size of the piece of paper underneath, and it doesn't vary. It will be the size of the piece of paper. The only reason this bit at the back that is not quite the size of the piece of paper is because as I roll it up, I stretch it. If I wasn't stretching it and I just literally took it off the piece of paper, it would be the size of the piece of paper, which is why all the squares are exactly the same size, because there is no tension to worry about. You said about tension, about worrying about baggy threads. Well, you give them all a little tug like this, and as long as you give them all a tug, that's it. That's it. So you do the next bit. which I need to do the same thing again, because this is a thing called a spider, and you basically swap all the bobbins each side, and then stick a pin in, and then you swap them all back, because that's how this works. I actually was not a fan of spiders, but as you may have noticed, this makes a kind of snake, and so if you're old enough, I'm a snake. If you're not old enough, go to YouTube, type I'm a snake, you'll understand. That lives rent free in my head, and I can't do snakes without going, I'm a snake. It's a really shit video, but quite funny. And sorry, I thought I was doing something. And so yeah, you just kind of do stuff. As for actually doing, you can only do a dot, so everything is worked to a dot. There are lots of little dots on the pattern, and you work to the dot. So if there was a big strip with dots at the side, that means you fill it up with cloth stitch generally. So you work across to that one, fill in the dot, you work across that one, fill in the next dot, and you fill in the dots. But you can only fill in a dot when you've got both parents to it. And because it's on a 45-degree grid, if I zoom in, hang on, bonk, right? If I wanted to work this dot here, let me use a pointy stick because fat fingers are a little bit vague in this scenario. So say I wanted to work this dot here, I have to have done this dot here and this dot here. Without them, this dot cannot be done. So while there are many dots, I can only do so many dots right here, right now. So I can do this dot up here, but I can't do any of these dots till I've done that dot. I can do this dot, but I can't do any of those dots. I can't do that dot because I could do, where am I? I have just completed that pin, so I could do that dot now, or that dot, but I can't do that one or any of these other ones. I can't do this dot because I can do this dot because this top string here, these two here, are going, but I have to do this dot first. So you have some choices, but you only have a really small number of choices, but you can do any of them. You're not restrained from doing any of them. Now, I tend to work in clumps, so like when I get to the motif, I'll have got all of my pairs ready so I can make the motif and then do it. But I don't have to. I could do the top few and the first dot and then work in lines and then get to it, do the next bit. But I find it personally easier to do whole things, and so I tend to get to the dot and to the motif and then work all the way up to it, and so it's ready to go, and then get on with it and then move to the next thing. So it is hard to screw up tension in lace making, unlike knitting and crochet, where tension is definitely a problem because you can't get your stick in it to poke through the hole or get the thing back through the hole or that many threads through the hole, or you drop it and curse like an abbey. Now that does not mean you can't fuck this shit up, because you most certainly can. And I have demonstrated this on many occasions. My ability to screw up. You'd be surprised how easy it is to make a mistake, and how dumb the mistakes can be, considering how repetitive it is, and how little information you actually need to do this, and how few different stitch types there are in this. So, for example, let me show you on the next one. This stitch is called a half stitch, so you do cross and twist, and instead of moving this one over so that both pairs cross, that's it. That's that stitch done. It's called a half stitch. But because of where it is and what I'm doing, you then put in a pin and do it again. So cross, twist. Now technically, both of them have changed sides and now have a cross on them so that they're twisted. That's it. So all of these individual dots, all these ones down here, it's we have gone back some substantial chunks. So for example, I might get to here. Usually what happens is, and this is one of the major crafting revelations of the century, right? You go, right, let's say for the sake of the argument, right, I'm done now, I'm going to quit. Take a photo, you look at the photo, and the moment you look at that photograph, because you're going to publish it on the internet, you see the mistakes. I can stare at this for hours and I will not see them because the view I've got is not the view you have now. You have a top-down view. You can see this motif. I can't. All I see are shiny pinheads. I can see and all of the bottom of the pins are covered by the threads that aren't in use. I can't really see the pant at all. So if there's something wrong with it, I wouldn't know, because the pins are in the way. But we have kind of got to here, realised I've cocked up when we've taken the photo, and I've had to go back to like here. But depending on where it is, it's not necessarily so bad. So let's say I screwed up here. Let me grab a pointy stick and we'll zoom in a bit. Let me do this. Let's say I screwed up and had not twisted these threads here. Now that looks like a long way back because you and I see them as all of this junk underneath. But to get back to these threads isn't actually as far as you think. I would need to undo this spider here, so I would now need to undo these 6 pins, because technically that's the pins, because that's the other thing, because the pins aren't dead straight, it doesn't help. So I would need to undo these 7 pins to get rid of that spider. I would undo this section and undo this spider, but I don't need to undo that one. I then just need to undo these few pins here, twist these, and then redo this bit and this bit. It's so, but there is one mistake, well there's 2 mistakes in this strip that I did not go back and fix, that I did see, but it would be the equivalent. Let me move my table a little bit. I would spot them here. It was about here in comparison. So I would have done all of this and I would have to have undone. It was like a motif. I think it was 2 motifs. And no. I mean, I want it to be right because, you know, no one wants to look at their hard work later and go, oh look, mistakes. Oh look, mistakes. Now, I am not saying there aren't other mistakes. But there are 2 that I know are in there. And I'm annoyed. And one of them will show enough that I will see it. The other one, not so much. Now, when I say I will see it, if I didn't twist these threads, between these pins would become 2 parallel lines, not one slightly thicker one. So you can see it. And it shows. And in fact, if you look at, if I go back to this picture, hang on, I go back to this one here, I can see a bunch of mistakes in that picture. Now, some of it looks like maybe it was a looser thread, but no. There are some fundamental, I fucked that bit up, and I fucked that bit up, and I fucked that bit up, and I fucked that bit up. So there are times when that is not a thing. And it is slightly annoying when you look at it and you go, yeah, I screwed that up. But, one of the other problems I had with this square is if you look at the top left-hand corner where the join is, the bit which would be above the join, if you actually count the squares, there's like a flat bit. There's a hole, a kind of a strip, and then the holes and the squares and the holes and the squares and the holes and the square. That flat bit is technically squares. But when sewing them together to make the join, I managed to flatten the squares. And no matter how hard I tried, I rarely got that right. I inevitably misshaped the outstanding work. And this causes me grief because, well, they're wrong. It makes them look wrong. Again, one advantage of the strip is the fact that the strip starts in a bunch of basically throwaway fabric almost, and because I think it works out as I need kind of 37, I think I need 38 inches, so I've got like an inch above and an inch below that I can frankly cut off if I really wanted to, but I've got spare, so I can join it to things without wrecking things. I've got room for manoeuvre, and I can make sure that they all line up, and because of course I'm going to sew hole to hole, and because there is no tension difference, the holes do line up, and you haven't got the wrong number of holes because you just can't. Now, occasionally you can screw up the holes because you do twisty on this side, you do twisty, put a pin, put it down. Somehow I can screw that up. I don't know quite how I screw that up, but I can screw that up, and I have screwed up in the past. As can be seen from the experiment, there's plenty of screw ups in the experiment. But I'm trying really hard not to leave mistakes. But like everything, this is supposed to be fun. There are times when my sanity dictates I am not going back that far. And the general rule of thumb I've got is if I have taken the pin out, I am not going back to fix it. Because I've got quite a healthy chunk of pins here. So if I have taken the pin out, it is far enough back that I probably won't fix it. But it is generally only noticeable in a photograph, which is irritating. Because you kind of go, look, I'm going to take a photo of what I did today. Click. Oh, fuck that up. Well, I mean, one of the things... Now, I got into a bit of an argument with my ex-husband over this one. I know what he meant, but it's not what he said. And, of course, what he said matters. My ex-husband said, because I made him a TARDIS door as a blanket, and somehow I lost a stitch in between one of the letters, and it showed, frankly, in my opinion. Now again, it shows more to me because I made it, and I know what I'm looking for, and how it should have looked, and all of that kind of crap, because it was a full-sized TARDIS door with a handle and everything, right? He said, that's okay. Handmade stuff is supposed to have mistakes in it. No. I don't set out to fuck shit up. No crafter on this planet sets out to make mistakes. They intend to make a perfect item. They inherently do make mistakes, but it's not supposed to have mistakes in it. It's supposed to look good because you put your heart, soul and love into it. Because most crafts do not take 5 minutes. Therefore, you put time, effort and for someone to go, oh look, you fucked that up. Cheers. Yes. Exactly. But my ex-husband said handmade items are supposed to have mistakes in. It's not what he meant, but it is what he said. And it lives in there and digs at me every so often with the, oh, Trev says it's supposed to. Yeah, well, Trev can go jump, right? Don't get me wrong. I have a very strange relationship. So my ex-husband and I, clearly divorced, I went round his house last night because it was his 60th birthday. We are great friends. In fact, when I was ill, he house sat for me with my dogs to keep so that I didn't have to try and put them in kennels and everything. Because that would have cost a small fortune. He's got keys to my house. We get on like a house on fire. We just can't be doing that ever again. And we are not doing any adulty type things. We are just friends. But he is my ex-husband. And so, it is something that kind of lives up there and niggles at me as to, it is kind of one of the reasons we were not good to live together, was because, well, he says dumb shit like that and I want to flatten him. That's just not fair. Don't get me wrong. When someone points out, I made you this, I'm sorry I made a mistake in it, There is no easy good answer. It's a bit like, do I look fat in that? There is no good answer. You know, do I look like I've gained weight? Because if you say no, she'll accuse you of lying. If you say yes, well, you've just told her she's fat and she'll hate you for that. So there is no good answer, right? There honestly isn't. And, you know, if someone says, I'm sorry, but there is a bit of a mistake in it, I hope you don't mind. The best answer I have been able to come up with in my mind is, I appreciate all the effort and I still think it looks great. You're not acknowledging the error. You're acknowledging the effort and the fact that you still like it. And to basically ignore the fact that they mentioned there was a mistake in it. I think it looks great. That's what you want to hear, right? Now, if it looks like the dog's dinner, maybe you've got to be a bit more careful, right? Yeah. Yeah. It is though, isn't it? It is there is no good answer to some questions like that. There is just no good answer to that, right? It's a fight. The fight is going to happen whether you like it or not. The fact that they've even asked the question means they're wanting a fight, right? And not something my ex-husband ever suffered from, because the answer is yes, I do look fat in that. For there is more of me to love, as the phrase goes. I am not a skinny person. I am not a beached whale, but I am not a skinny person. I will not be a contestant on my 600-pound life, but at the same time, I'm never going to be a supermodel. So, because that now, I know it's that. See, there looked almost like there was something wrong, but it was just the fact that this string is hanging at a funny angle, so kind of disappeared, and all I see is the one string, because I also have slightly wonky eyesight, which means that I can't really tell if strings are on top of something or under something, which means untangling them is a bit of a bitch. But you just reverse what you did, because, well, if it was cross twist, now it's twist cross and it will undo itself, so that kind of works out. But yeah, it's so technically this is not hard. And you get lots of people going, oh, I couldn't do that. You could. If you can pick something up and you can put it down, you can do this. The hardest part is stabbing it with a pin in the little hole. Or in my case, picking up one pin, because I'm really good at not picking up one pin. This pin sucks. You know, if you are capable of poking a pin and a dot on a piece of paper, you could do this. Now, you may not want to, you may not wish to spend any time having a go, and I respect that. But it's a bit like, it's not like you're watching, you know, the Olympic gymnastics and going, oh, I couldn't do that. No, you probably couldn't, because you'd probably break something, because believe me, I used to be a gymnast. It's a lot easier to do wrong than you'd like to think. Because, of course, you can watch them do it all they like and they make it look so effortless. Friggin' isn't. But something like this, well, the worst thing you can do is you won't do it. No one's going to die. It's, you know, you're not going to break something. You're not going to irreparably damage the universe by doing it. So, you don't need fancy equipment. While this is a fancy pillow, I will grant you that. My favourite pillow is a pillow I made from the polystyrene lid of a cooler I got when I ordered myself some Cornish pasties. It's my favourite pillow. These bobbins are not commercial bobbins. I made them. You get a stick, you colour it with a Sharpie, you glue beads on it, and you go, ta-da, right? I have lots of proper commercial bobbins, but I really like these. Mainly because they're quite heavy, and not being a delicate, dainty kind of girl. These are the perfect bead bobbin for me. So, you know, you don't need fancy equipment. You don't need fancy thread, you don't need fancy pins. Now, that's the thing. Where's my box? You hatching my box, Rory? I think you are. No, you're not hatching my box. What did I do with my boxes, Rory? What did I do with my little plastic boxes of goodie things? Because they're not on my table. There they are. There they are. So, commercial bobbins come in many, many formats. Let me grab my box from over here. Hang on. Extract myself out from the dog. So, bobbins are a little bit like accents, as in language accents, right? In that there are many bobbins and types of lace, but they all boil down to cross and twist. And bobbins all boil down to hold my thread. That is actually their only purpose. Hold my thread, right? So, I have a number of bobbins here, and I have many more, but these are the ones I have to hand. This is a standard English Midlands bobbin. It comes with these. These are beads known as a spangle. Spangles are shit because when you pick them up, they drop. Then you put them down and your stick is now stuck in the air like a pansy, or it goes to like this to one side, and then you can't put them together properly because it's being a shit. So I find spangles really irritating, and so I don't like Midlands bobbins. I have about 200 of them, but I hate them, right? Then you have toothpicks. These are not technically called toothpicks, but these are what I lovingly refer to as toothpicks because, well, they're small, weightless, and pointless. Because, well, these are for Honiton lace. But in Honiton lace, you make a motif. So you'd make a little flower about this big, right? Which is great, because you only need a handful. But these aren't so bad, because they really don't take up a lot of space. In fact, they take up about the same amount of space as my sticks. But they don't weigh anything, and, well, they're a bit annoying. Then there is, and I only have one other kind of bobbin, to hand. Now these are made out of, these are 3D printed, and I got them free, but I have wooden ones of the same variety. So you have those, which I quite like, because they're, you know, they're kind of solid, and I'm a bit of a solid girl. I've got varying types. I've got whole piles of bobbins. I've got some which are more straight and end up in a bit more of a chunk at the end. I've got hooded ones, which are real thin sticks that you put like a, well, you put a hood over it so that the stick is encased so that you can't be touching the thread and skanking it up with your dirty hands. I've got various ones are more along this kind of idea of there is a top, a neck, and a bottom, and no spangles. I've got some square ones that don't roll. They're quite cool. And I've got some that got real fat chunky bottoms, which I really quite like, but are not great for this because they're fat and chunky and you can't get many across. Which again is part of the reason I like these. But I got these from a seller and I bought quite a few bobbins off them, and they had some wooden ones where the wood is a really quite a dense wood, so the bobbins are naturally heavy, and I really like them. I mean, like, seriously like them, like, you know, I bought a lot of them because I really do like them. And that's right, I'm trying to put this back in the box and the bobbins are playing it because you've got to fit them diagonally because they only just fit. Let me put that down. So I have, let me move my thing, and that, and that. I know that they're just down here, the other side of this. Hang on. So I have these wooden ones. She says getting the string out. So I have these. Now these are made of a really heavy wood. These weigh compared to normal wooden bobbins, these weigh quite a bit. These were a bit more expensive. These have to wear sin hats, by the way, which is the little elastic band, because basically they kept coming undone and I was losing my shit with them, and so we called them sin hats. To everyone else, they're orthodontic elastics. But I have sin hats on most of those, because basically once it's sinned, I put a hat on it so it wouldn't annoy me anymore. So I've got a shit ton of those. I've got some fatter ones, some thinner ones. But I really wanted ebony bobbins, because, well, white looks good on black, right? If I tell you that they're about £5 per bobbin, so £5 a bobbin, and I've got 84 here, and that only makes like this wide a section of lace. Now bear in mind, obviously it is dependent on the size of the thread, not the bobbin, as to how wide the thing ends up, but because you put the dots further apart if it's fatter, kind of thing, right? If I want, well, yeah, now sit down, because they make, well, they used to make, but I think they still do, bone ones. Now that would be really cool, because that sounds really authentic and kind of oldie worldy. But not at £18 per fucking bobbin, it ain't. There is, unless I win the lottery or Elon Musk sends me donations, I can't afford that. Imagine I wanted to make a whole neck curtain in one go, right? If I've got 7 strips of 84, right? Where's my calculator? Just because I can't be asked to do the maths in my head. And I know it's not hard maths, but it's been a day. So if I have 84 bobbins and I want to make, that is, if I was going to make my window thing in one piece, I would need 588 bobbins. At £18 a bobbin, I could buy a new fucking car. Car money. Christ, that's house money in some places. I mean, it's ridiculous. So clearly I don't have bone bobbins. I don't have ebony bobbins. These bobbins, to make the 100 that I did, I think it was £6. Was it slightly more than that? I think it was like £6 or £8 to make these bobbins. And yet these look really stylish, in my opinion. I'm sorry, I know it's my opinion, but they're my bobbins, so it's kind of what counts, right? But they look really posh and expensive. They're actually metal beads, by the way. Well, I do know someone who only uses bone bobbins. But she only makes tiny shit, though. I mean, you know, what do you do? Buy yourself 2 a year, because that's all you can afford. I mean, and that's, of course, the other problem with an awful lot of crafts these days, is that even if they still make stuff, any stuff that is made is generally known to be priced well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, and I have steak. And just to prove the point. It's just one of those things, is that, I mean, if I needed to make another 100 of these, it takes a while, but it doesn't take that long. I can, you know, if I really sat down 2 evenings, then I'd have made another 100, right? But they'll last. The actual sticks are hardwood sticks, so they're not fragile. These really do weigh. These are absolutely heavy. I mean, trying to think of something as a comparison. Deodorant. Try to keep them in order. There you go. That's about... These really are heavy. Which makes them not suitable for one particular type of lace pillow, which is where you have a big round one and they dangle, because the weight would be too much. But part of the reason I like the weight is because you put them down and they don't tend to in the wind. So if there's a bit of a wind or a draft, they don't tend to bugger off. The weight tends to hold them still. And bobbin movement is a hassle, right? Because you know, when your brain's trying to think, the last thing you need is movement, right? So it is just one of those weird parts for me that it's the same with weaving. I like really heavy weaving shuttles. In fact, you know, if you could like lead paint them or, you know, make them out of lead, I'd probably love them even more. Whereas other people want the lightest, featheriest, nothingest, and I'm just not that dainty. I cannot be dealing with something that, you know, I'm not sure if I'm holding it or not. I want to know if I've got some in my hand. I want to know if it's, you know, I want to know that if I accidentally knock it, it's not going to go into orbit, because the amount of kinetic energy I provided to it by breathing near it was enough to send it into orbit. I kind of wanted to say still thanks, because sorting out threads, you know, as you can imagine, if this was to fall off my table, they do. Now, don't get me wrong, the wooden ones make a fairly nice sound. If I grab my punnet of wooden ones, so if I take my 100% wood ones only, they do make kind of a nice noise. So it's not a bad noise. It's a higher pitched noise, and that can grate slightly, but I do like that these make, because you can tell from that there is a bit of weight behind it. I mean, if I grab a wooden one again, I keep closing the bag and then needing them again, but if I take a wooden one, and bear in mind they're not dissimilar, I mean they are a bit shorter, that's right, got a bit caught on, they are a little bit shorter, but if I, and then you can tell that is significantly lighter in the thud. You know, it's like everything. Something like goes tinkle, 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 tinkle. Something heavy goes boom, 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 boom. And these go boom. And I quite like the fact that they have a bit more distinctiveness to their arrival. There is no, I'm not sure it has arrived, you know. And so I do really like these. And hence, to be honest, I chose metal beads, because I could have done plastic beads. If I'd wanted them to be light, I could have done them in plastic. But I could have done plastic beads. Lots of people have. Lots of people have done plastic beads on them. And they've done like toothpicks with plastic beads. That's not a problem. If that's what you want, that's what you have. You know, you get almost like ultra thin incense sticks and plastic beads. If that's what you want and you're a delicate girl, go for it. But I want something that if I pick it up, I'm not going to snap it in half by mistake. I don't want it to be delicate. Now, the only thing that I did struggle with was the ball bearings on the top, because these are actual 7mm ball bearings, right? The other beads all glued on really well. The ball bearings, because obviously round thing into a hole, and bear in mind underneath the ball bearing is a hole, because these beads don't go all the way on the stick, because the darn people lied about the size of the... Now obviously they weren't originally going to go all the way on the stick, but they were going to go most of the way onto the stick, on the simple grounds that I was going to leave a little bit so that the ball bearing could basically be glued to the top of the stick, and this would then butt up against it and, you know, provide bracing. Half a millimetre too small. so you have to sand each stick to get the bead on the stick. So you have to make it a bit more dome shaped so that this will even glue onto it. So this bead is not as securely glued onto the stick as I wanted. And then because that's the ball bearing's not touching the stick, it's not like I could pile in a load of glue and kind of support the ball bearing and then just have the kind of bead covering it up almost, because, well, that wasn't really a thing. Now I did try hot gluing them, because I know Americans love hot glue, but I came to a really distinct thought, and it's a thought that may haunt you forever if you're a hot glue fan. Hot glue's wax. It's no more than wax, because you get a stick of it and it's kind of got a waxy feel to it. When you melt it, it will take the shape of whatever you use. But if you have two non-porous subjects, all it does is take the gap in between and basically provide a bit of suction. It's not stuck to the ball bearing. Ball bearing will come off really easily, and so they did. And I only tried the hot glue on a handful, and I'd filled up the hole in the top and put the ball bearing on, because I thought that's really quite a clever way of doing it, because then it will all mould together and stick. It doesn't stick. It's just wax. I might as well have put candle wax in it. And so as a result of that, I went back to super gluing them. Well, using this shit. It is a form of super glue. I use this stuff, bead glue, because basically it's super glue, but that works really well. They haven't come off for ages now. But yeah, it's making them, I think, was the best decision I ever made, because, you know, they're as expensive then as I'm prepared to make them. I could, you know, if I really wanted to fancy paint them, and I mean, you know, draw flat, if I could only, I could draw, right? I have zero drawing ability. You've never met a human being who has full eyesight who has less drawing ability than I do. I am absolutely incapable. Even my stick men, you'd probably ask what it is, right? But well, and that's basically what that stuff is. It's a form of super glue, and well, they don't come off. One of them is at a bit of a jaunty angle, and I probably could snap it off and do it proper. Now, the original plan, my original plan, was that because you make the half-hitch knot, that the half-hitch knot would actually go round there. And that was the whole point of the ball bearings. Shut up, animal! People are allowed to move in the world. That's right, my neighbours have had some work done on their kitchen, and probably the people are going home. And God forbid there is human beings in the world. You need to shut up. No, you'll only ever really hear her. You need to shut up, because you drive me insane. But so they were originally supposed to be like that, so that the because this is called the, you know, on a more standard coloured bobbin, this bit is called the rose, the little blobble at the top, and you then have that, and then you have like the neck where the thread goes, and then the thread could be right up against this, and it all would be cool because it would keep them apart. But because the ball bearings had a habit of falling off, I got into the habit of putting the loop round the neck, and it doesn't really make any odds, so it doesn't matter. All, as I said, all these do is hold your thread. Now obviously when I started the strip, I had to put a lot of thread on, so you know, that was a thing. It's, you know, there really is no complexity to it, but I like the fact that I made my own bobbins, and I'm really pleased that I you know, because I tried making some, and then I did a little bit, and obviously only a kind of small test bit, and then it was kind of like, you know what, I actually really do like those. I'd seen some that someone else had made, and I'm like, oh my god, where did she get those bobbins? And they weren't like this, they were quite different, but they were black, but they had different beads. They had coloured beads on it and stuff. And I was kind of like, where did she get those? Thinking, you know, expecting some extortionate, you know, kind of like, you know, Louis Vuitton style prices on it. And it was kind of like, she made them. What? It hadn't dawned on me to make mine. Now, I'm the daughter of a carpenter. Now, technically, I could make wooden bobbins. I just don't have the time, the patience, or the equipment. Because I know how I can turn wood. I did that as a child, Christ's sake. I'm sure I could do that again. I remember how it all worked. I'm sure the first few would be absolutely useless, but I could get the hang of it. But it was the fact that she basically said, buy some wooden sticks, measure the... Now, you have to buy the hardwood ones. There are a lot of bamboo ones, and what you have to do is you have to look at the end. And there's no way I can show you the end clear enough to explain. But if the end looks like little holes, or like eyes, that is not what you want. You want one with grain in it, so with lines in it. That is hard, because this, I am pressing really hard. I mean, I'm holding on to the bottom, but I'm pressing really hard. I can't snap that. If you do it with the bobbin one, it will snap real fucking easy. The other ones, I have some. I did buy some to see how weak and feeble they are. They're terrible. So these are really quite strong. I mean, you can snap them. If I do this, this would snap it. But if you hang on to it and, you know, if you're hanging on to it, you know, over a shorter distance, this is quite strong. The other ones, the kind of bamboo-y ones, then they might not say they're bamboo, but you must look at the picture. If the picture doesn't show wood grain, as in the lines, it's no good to you. So, but these take a lot of work. Now, some of them are a bit rougher, so this one's got like a rough bit here on the side. I mean, if I... You can probably hear it catching on my nail. So, most of it's... So, occasionally you have to you might have to sandpaper it. Nail files are good for that. And, you know, just running it over to sand it off a bit and take the worst of the... Because that's, again, it's part of where the grain is angled out into the middle and it's not as smooth, so you can smooth it off. But I coloured them in. I got a mega Sharpie. It's a huge thing. It's about this wide. It's insultingly huge. It's not in my thing. Where's my... There it is. When I say insultingly huge, I mean insultingly huge. This thing, you know, I mean, taking the lid off and half the country's just got high, you know. And believe me, that actually does give you a headache. There is sufficient... They're not cheap, but I will tell you, they're a joy to use. It is the juiciest thing as well. I mean, seriously, there is enough juice in there. It's not going. You're not going to be sitting there going, "Oh, I think the colour's running out." I don't think that's a word that's ever going to be associated with that pen. That's for sure. It has a lot of juice in it, and so I coloured in my things. I did actually put a layer of matte varnish on it to help seal in the stain. It has not been entirely successful. And this can be told by the fact that if I bunch that up, you'll notice that one end is slightly grayer and some of the threads look slightly grayer, but it does wash out because it's only kind of dust, because it's not a wet product, it is only dust. But yeah, I am really pleased that I made my bobbins, and I'm really pleased that I went with metal because it does give it a real good chunk to it. So yeah, it is one of those things, though, that, as I say, you know, the stick itself, this is pretty light. I mean, it's well, it's, you know, it's not made of a lot. But if you put plastic beads on that, it wouldn't really gain any weight, but it would still be perfectly good. You could paint it in any paint you like. If you have talent, you could paint a picture on it. You get a scalpel blade and sculpt it if you like. I wouldn't recommend making it too thin though, because then it would be more prone to breakage. But You could sculpt it a bit if you wanted. You could, you know, etch in with one of those wood burning etchy tools, like the stuff that did this. You could put etchy things on it. You could, you know, there is kind of like an entire world of things you could do to personalise your bobbins and still have them freaking expensive. I mean, think about it this way. If you put a bead at the top and a bead underneath it to make your rose and your top, and then say a bead roughly in the middle to give you kind of a stopping point for your thread, right? It can be anywhere from like 3/4 to half, and then the bottom half is entirely yours to do with what you like. So you could wrap threads around it, you could put beads on it, and I'm talking those little tiny ones, and like coat them in beads and make like a little picture out of beads. You can put stickers on it. You can stick dangles on the bottom if you really fucking want, if that's your bag, because it's not mine. But if you really want, you can attach dangly bits to it. You can do whatever you like. So you can have them and you can get longer sticks, by the way. You don't have to have this length of stick. This is a 10 centimeter stick. You can have 15 centimeter sticks. So you could, and then you could trim them if you wanted. But for ease, I went with the 10 centimeter ones because I didn't want them to be too long, but at the same time I wanted them to be enough that they kind of fill my hand, you know. You know, this stick could become so many different looking bobbins that you would never assume it's the same stick at the middle. You could cover them in Plexicoat, which is a plastic coating, so that they would then look plastic, but they'd have a rubber like grip to them. You know, there are just so many things you could do. You could high gloss varnish them if you really wanted. Wood stain. One of my bobbins is actually stained with a black wood stain. Just quickly looking and not spotting it. There it is. That one's a wood stain, not a Sharpie, but I can tell. It's hard to tell as a whole, but I can tell, partly because I made it, but it is one of those weird things, is that, you know, you could literally do whatever you liked with it, and I think in some ways personalising your environment, we all know that if it's too clinical, if it's too hospital, you have this, you're not connected to it. But when you've made every bobbin, so you can make bobbins in pairs, because generally in a lot of laces, bobbins travel in pairs. So you could have different paired colours. You could, you know, I'm not saying all bobbins have to be in pairs, but you could make them in pairs, so you try and make two identical. So even if you use the same colour again, but maybe not the same coloured beads, you keep the same coloured beads, so there is an element of pairs to it. That can be helpful, which is why people with spangle often always make spangled ones generally with pairs, because, well, it's helpful to have pairs, because in a lot of lace you keep the pairs together, so you know you fucked up when you've no longer got your pair together, kind of thing, which obviously this doesn't have. But at the same time, I could still do something with the bottoms to put colours around. I mean, if I bought, because you can get coloured sin hats, by the way, I could put coloured sin hats on the bottom and mark particular bobbins as you know, important, or, you know, as a set or something. I mean, I've got a big tub of sin hats. Is that my tub of sin hat? I do have a tub of sin hats, and all of mine are the same colour. But you could put different quantities, you can put colours, you can put them in different orders. You can, you know, and already suddenly a load of identical bobbins aren't the same anymore because you put, you know, Morse code elastic bands at the bottom or something, right? You know. You know, I think the idea of, you know, making the bobbins the way you want them to be, so they're the weight you enjoy. If you want them square, you put square bead on it. and then they don't enroll. If you want there to be spangly dangly things, put spangly dangly things on the image. You know, you can do what you like, but they are really cheap. But they're also something, if you're a parent, not that I ever did that, but if you're a parent, there's something you could get your children to make some of, so that then your children feel connected to it. Because obviously you can't, it's not really a child thing. I mean, I know I did it as a child, but I'm a weirdo, so. And in fact, the only reason I did it was because my rather eccentric aunt, that's been exceptionally kind to her. Let's put it this way: she got thrown out of the nut house because she was too weird for the nut house. Eccentric is really not the word for her. She is nuttier than a barrel full of nuts. She's clinically nutty. But when I was younger, she had avoided the nut house at that point, by the skin of her teeth, and she was one hair from the nut house, and she had encouraged her daughter to try this, and the kid couldn't have been more bored with it if she was paid. But she brought it round to Granny's house, and I happened to be there because I used to stay at Granny and Grandad's house during the summer to work. She never did. She never did any of the work, but they'd come like every Saturday to visit, kind of thing. And one Saturday they bought this book, and in the book were the instructions on how to make a strip of lace. And she bought the little pillow thing, and of course, show Granny what you've done. No. Show Granny. No, said the other kid. What is it? Says me, curious as to what it is that she's supposed to be showing. Oh, it's this thing. And I read the book and it's got instructions. Can I have a go? Well, she's not bothering. I don't suppose it'll hurt. And off I went. And that was kind of it, you know. So it is very much something that you do not have to be Brain of England to achieve. You don't even necessarily need an in-house teacher. YouTube videos are out there that will help with some of the so how do I stop, you know, kind of moments, because the one thing that I am weakest on is the finishing thereof, because when you start, you can start with a loop of thread, so it's all neat and tidy and smart. You can't really do that at the end. You have to either knot it, and you're not really supposed to knot it, but you know, you can knot it. There is a YouTube video of me trying not to knot it, and I made a square that was a quarter of the size of my big squares. So it used half the bobbins, if not less than that, because obviously you have pairs of bobbins across the diagonal. So corner to corner, it was a quarter of the number of bobbins, because obviously, where are we going to go? And it was the tiniest thing. It was literally like an inch and a bit wide. It was the tiniest of things. And I made it one Saturday afternoon, and then I set about doing the join without doing the knots, because I will confess the reason mine looks bad is because I knot them, and then because I'm paranoid of them falling apart, I glued them, because, well, I was bugged if they were going to come apart. After all that work, they were going to stay knotted, right? And it's the tiniest dab of glue. I mean, you don't actually feel the glue, but they're glued, because I'm bugged if those knots are coming apart. Normally, the sewing up of the half the diagonal no worries. I hope you will come back sometime. We will appreciate you coming back, because it's been good to have someone to talk to, because otherwise I just sit here getting on with it and it gets a bit boring, really. But yeah, it's been very good to talk to you, so enjoy your walk. By the way, have you tried one of those blood mover out things that send electric things into your feet so it squeezes your calves for you? Have you tried one of those? They're quite good. So if on a shitty weather day, instead of going for a walk, You can plug yourself in. My ex-husband got one and he said it's one of the best things he ever did. Really helps because he gets strained legs from some of the work that he does and the walking he has to do, and he found it really helped, just as a thought. Let's put some of you away for a minute. Okay, that's what we're doing now. Now, you don't look right. You look like you've got tummy twists. Scoot you up. 1, 2. Good. It's not the warm-up that's the problem. As an ex-gymnast, I will tell you now, you need to stretch for a long time afterwards. The warm-up, because walking stairs is not... I mean, it's a strenuous thing, and clearly you can overdo it. I mean, you're looking at the girl who woke up one day, did 500 sit-ups, and then wondered why the next morning couldn't sit up in bed and had to roll over and crawl all across the floor. So, and yes, we did them in batches, but you did like 50, stop, 50, stop, 50, and you took turns. And well, yeah, we got to 500 and thought nothing of it till the next morning. Oh, fuck, damn, the next morning. I have not forgotten that pain, believe me. And believe me, I've had surgery that looks like I've star jumped onto a chainsaw. And believe me, those sit-ups were worse. But if you stretch considerably afterwards, and when I say stretch, you've got to hold a really strong stretch, so one that's kind of painful to hold for 2-3 minutes. You need to get rid of the lactic acid that will have built up, and you need to stretch because your muscles will now be red hot and good. That is the time to stretch them. Yes. Yeah. Believe me, as I said, I'm the girl who woke up, did 500 sit-ups with a friend because they wanted to get fitter, and so I said, yeah, I'll join you, and I did the same number of sit-ups they did, and this was not our wise choice because we'd gone from doing none to 500, and it really was 500. We just did them on and off all night. We were holding conversations because you do 50 and you take a break. It's really not that bad. Yeah. Anyway, so yes, stretching afterwards will save so much, and then have a hot bath. So do your intense exercise, whatever your exercise was going to be, whether you're stair lifting, whether you're running, walking, mountain climbing, whatever it is. Do a seriously long stretch, have a hot bath. You'll be surprised what difference that makes. Promise you. But yeah, stretching really does help. And even now, stretching will still help. Stretching will still help. Yes and no. Having a good long soak in a hot bath isn't always the same as a sauna. I mean, it's because it's not quite as penetrating as a sauna. A sauna is more surface, I feel. Whereas a hot bath is dunking oneself in boiling acid, frankly. But yeah, it is a much more penetrating heat than the heat of the sauna, because the hot water is constantly in touch with you and your whole body goes pink, you know. Yeah, but stretch, my friend, stretch. You'll be surprised. And if you need to know how to stretch, is stand with your toes on the edge of the stairs and then let your heels sink. You can try the kind of pushing a car thing against the wall, but I don't find that does anything for me because it doesn't stretch enough. But toes on the edge of the stairs and let your heels sink. You'll feel it, you'll know, and then hold it for like, it will hurt like buggery, but hold it for 2 or 3 minutes. Get off, point your toes as much as you can for a bit. Let it rest for a while, and then go and do some more. And you can do that all day. Go and give it a bit more of a stretch. Go and give it a bit more stretch, and you'll be surprised how quickly that helps. It's not going to fix you the first time you do it, but it will help. In the case of muscles that have overworked, the pain is not, how do I explain this? The pain is not the pain you think it is. You are not damaging your muscles by doing it. It is the shifting of the acid that has crystallized that matters. So in that case, once you've done, if you've done a bit of walking around and your legs aren't just, you haven't just got up from a 6-hour sit down and try it, your muscles will be fine. If you've walked around for a couple of minutes, you'll be fine. Go and give them a stretch. And yes, it will hurt like a mother. That's because it's working. I know it sounds really weird. It's because it's working. If the stretch does not actually hurt, it's probably not really doing anything. And I mean that genuinely. You will see, except if you try, if you wanted to do the splits, for example, if you only push yourself to a point where it's mildly uncomfortable, you'll still be at it for weeks. It'll take you weeks and months, and whereas if you get to the point where, Jesus, that's a bit sore, that is the point you want to hold it at. That will make the difference, because as you sit there for 2 or 3 minutes, you'll get, for the first minute, you'll be cursing me and all my ancestors, and that's fine. They don't mind. They're used to it. They've had a few out of me after all. But after a while, your body then relaxes, and you will be able to stretch further during that time period. And it will still hurt. Oh God, will it still hurt? Yeah, but if nothing else, one thing you can do, hot water bowl, electric blanket, wrap your legs in it to give them that warm and kind of keep them warm, because that helps the acid that's in there that builds up disperse, because the blood flow's still rushing round, but you've not got the adrenaline and the muscle dependency request for more lactic acid, so it then helps part with it and all the rest of it. So yeah, enjoy your walk. Not dissing the walk at all, but yeah, give it a good stretch afterwards. Feel free to curse my name, and if I feel senses in the right in the world, I will assume that you did just that, and that's fine. Because as I say, my ancestors are used to it. You may curse them all you like. I am the end of my family line, so go for it. Have fun. Yeah, I think it's one of those things that I often think about is, you get in films like, I curse you and all of your, and all of you, and all of your descendants. Good luck. There won't be any. I'm 52. I've gone through menopause, and I'm the last of the line, so curse away, dude. Curse away. The buck stops here, Pretty sure someone already has, so, join the queue. we will do a bit of the other side and call it quits. The other side seems far, far away. What are we going to have for tea, kitty kids? What are we going to have for tea? What are we going to do for tea? I'm actually going to roll this back one chunk so I can see better. Not put strain on you. Get a few threads out of there a minute. So, 3 of you on this side, like this. You can go there. Let's do a bit of you. And we need some of you over there. 1, 2, 3. So that's you over there. And 1, 2, 3 of you. You already have the twists. Yep. And you need the twist. goodness sake, animals. Just sit still. Whatever it is not important. The house is not on fire. The people aren't coming to steal your food or mine. Just give it a break. It's just not important. It really isn't. Take a photo. There. Look for blatant fuck ups. All the usual candidates are fine. Tension on this one here is a bit wanky. This one here is a bit odd, but I think that's purely a tensional issue. Everything else is looking good. So we definitely made it to 36. We're kind of 36 and a half really. And well, clearly here is the bottom. And as I said, I have, strip number 2 ready to go. So all I'll need to do is, wind a billion bobbins really. And we know how much I enjoyed that. I will look to see if I can work out, a thin looking bobbin and see how much is left, because obviously if for sake of the argument I wind on 4 meters and there's going to be a meter left, well, that's 84 meters of thread I'm chucking in the bin. So if I don't need to wind on 84 meters of thread, then I can avoid it. So we shall see how it goes, but I am feeling rather pleased with myself. We're getting towards the bottom. Which reminds me, I need to move these because otherwise it'll catch on stuff and it'll get annoying. So let's put you down there like that, and take you out of 38 and put you in 39. There you go. And that like that. Just hold it down a bit. Yeah, nearly there. Kind of exciting. Tomorrow we will most likely make the big motif, and on Sunday we shall probably get to the bottom of the strip. So here we go. Yeah, and then I'll have to find something to put the pins in, and I could put them just back in any old pin bot, but it'd be easier if I could, because, well, it's the same number of pins every time. So yeah, but there you go, it's a thing. So I'm going to order me some food, as it's like 6:30, so and I'm hungry. Thank you for joining me today. I apologise that I started later than I intended, but I shall be back late tomorrow, so in about 30 hours time, kind of ish. No, it's not going to be quite that long, is it? So it's 24, 25, 26, 27, 28-ish hours from now. So it was a good guess. So yeah, take care. I hope you enjoyed it. And I don't think there's too many of you left. I think you all ran away and got bored. So with that in mind, I thank you for coming. And I shall see you again, hopefully. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.